Hi, Aileen. Thanks so much for joining me today. So Aileen, she was actually in India with Sanal, and she was learning from him. He was teaching her about spirituality pretty much for, I think, 3 months, and it was happening every day. So she has gone pretty deep into his teachings and has a lot of great information to share. So we wanted to just do a quick interview to just learn more about her experience and how it applied to her life and how it made a lot of transformation and results in her life in general. So just to start off with, did you have like a specific problem or a challenge before you started working with Sanal?
I would say that my challenges were sort of family related issues, loosening up the attachments to family and problems within family.
Did you try to do anything else to kind of solve these problems or help with these challenges before?
Before Sanal, I've read a lot of books, Thich Nhat Hanh, Wayne Dyer, a whole variety of books, and they were all very informative, but I never really found myself being able to apply anything that I was reading. And it was kind of like I would take in the information and then it was sort of escape me. So there was no application to what I was learning.
Basically, when you were working with Sanal and learning his approach and philosophy of spirituality, what would you say was like your biggest aha moment?
Okay, my biggest aha moment, this is a very easy one to answer for me, was when I realized I had no control over my mind, that my mind was just like ruling me, and that I had never really used my mind in any way that benefited my life. It was kind of just running amok with stories and stories and stories and very repetitive patterns. I was not really healthy in my mind.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have that issue.
And very unknowingly, because as we began to unfold, as the days and weeks went on, it just became more relevant to me. Like what was happening up here was just this constant spinning cycling.
Yeah, it's kind of like subconsciously happening. And when you're used to it, you don't really know it's going on. It's just like normal.
Yeah, I thought I was very healthy and sound of mind at the time, Mm-hmm. It wasn't until a few, really maybe 2 sessions in, that I realized, wow, I really need this. I really just knew this was going to be life-changing for me, and a lot of what Sanal talked about with me was perception. I know the word perception, but I really never applied it to my own self. How I was perceiving things was affecting and influencing the thoughts that I had about it, and then the stories that I created from it, and truths, from these perceptions, what I was claiming as truths, and realizing that I held strongly onto some opinions and ideas that were so solid, I was making truths out of them where there was really nothing there, but the mind wants to make everything like matter and concrete. I didn't realize that I was not all that fluid in my thoughts and in my mind space.
So what would you say, like, how do you feel that you changed after learning and realizing all of these things?
Yeah, it's profound. It's just so dramatic. Even people at the time that I knew in that area, they could see and feel for sure that I was not operating the same way. I wasn't responding the same way to things. I calmed down a lot with his teachings. I learned to listen better. I learned to absorb more. I was able to apply the things that he was teaching. It wasn't complicated at all. It was really very simple. He was repetitive, which I really needed. We would discuss similar things in different ways day after day. I really would advocate to take in as much time in successive sessions with Sanal, because this is how he really helps break up that tension in the mind that has us stuck. I felt different. I felt calmer. I felt more ease. I felt less fear and worry. Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I couldn't wait for the next day to go see him.
It was perfect because you could just meet him every single morning. So there's no sort of gap in focusing on these things.
Not at all. I mean, and it was so helpful. And he was so supportive and so generous, as were you. Just so generous with time and with wisdom and knowledge. Share those things with people so selflessly, expecting nothing. It was just such a gift from the universe to cross his path. I mean, I will never, ever forget that time. I feel emotional right now recalling it. It was just so profound.
So when you went back to see your family, did your family notice a big change in you as well?
I feel that they felt more ease with me, less maybe judgment from me. They didn't see me as someone coming in with a lot of opinions about things anymore. I move with more ease. I accept things as they are. I'm not making stories about what I see. I'm just sort of seeing things as they are and letting them go. You know, there's just more, and it creates such a peaceful feeling with my relationships and my existence in myself now. I feel more peaceful. And yeah, my family noticed. I think my children felt better around me than they ever had. I think it helped me to show up more authentic even. I just feel happier, much happier. There's like joy every day, even though problems don't go away, but I no longer feel this need to perseverate over them. It's like, it's gonna be okay. And I can shift how I'm looking at it. If I do start to feel burdened, I know how to shift my mind into a place that I feel well with whatever's happening. And that did not take long to learn to do with Sanal. Honestly, I was so amazed.
When problems come up now, like how do you tackle those problems? How do you deal with those problems?
I don't. You know, I mean, I really don't. I just see things now as just things that are happening, you know, and sometimes maybe some advice is needed. I can verbally give some advice, but it's almost like I don't see anything as a problem anymore. Things are just happening. Things are always happening, but I kind of am allowing everything to just move, and I don't have to interject myself the way before I always felt like, oh, I have to go fix this. Oh, I have to go fix that. I realize there's nothing that needs me fixing anything. His teachings have given me a freedom, and some of it I cannot even articulate. It's almost like it organically incorporated itself into me.
So you feel like you were able to completely embody the teachings, like without forgetting it or having to look back and remember?
Absolutely not. I don't need to. I mean, it's great if I look at the notes, I would take some notes and that's fine, but it's no. It's like, it just, I don't know what the word is, where it just kind of integrates into you. You know, they say when you're ready, the teacher appears. And I don't feel like there's a whole lot of doctrines or anything. I think even just like sitting with Sanal, there's an exchange energetically. He's a very calm, rational, sincere being. And I feel like that was transmitted, which helped me come into a place of better balance and openness. I mean, he's got theories and ways of teaching, but it goes beyond the word. It's almost like his words, his teachings are infused with an energy of transformation. And even if you're not understanding what he's saying as a principle, you're going to get benefit if you sit and absorb his words.
Yeah, so the process of just listening to what he's speaking about is the transformation. You don't have to do any sort of meditation practice or chanting mantras or yoga poses, just taking in the wisdom.
No, not needed. I've done yoga, you know, I am a yoga practitioner, but those things have not transformed me in my mind the way I was able to do with Sanal.
Yeah, and that's like the real difference between like other types of spirituality and meditation. Like they kind of require a lot of work of things that you have to do in order to transform your mind and make yourself a better person. But that's why Sanal Sanal developed this whole method of teaching about spirituality so that people can just simply listen no matter where they are, what they're doing, and it will all make an impact that they won't forget about.
That really is how it worked. I mean, you can take notes and you can approach this from like an academic type of space. For some people that might be really helpful. And I think taking notes is great on certain things, but I really felt the main thing was like a transmission of his energy with his words to a person that's really seeking to improve their life experience. You'll come out winning. You will come out with a lot of benefits. I've gone to the ashram and I've done the chanting and I've done the meditations and all of those things. In some ways, those things created more tension for me, because I felt like I have to form, I've got to go here, I've got to do this and that. And
yeah, like sometimes the sort of schedule of an ashram or a meditation practice can be really stressful in itself because you're like, oh, I have to go do this. And then you can get so burnt out on it and then just give up.
You can start to like qualifying yourself. Am I doing enough? Am I focused enough? All of these things can creep in. And I mean, meditation is great, but sometimes it's not helpful. If the mind is like, it's really hard to meditate. Once you get the mind in a softer, more peaceful space, it's much easier to practice a meditation.
Yeah, and I think today a lot of people are having a lot of loud thoughts in their minds, so much going on. It can be hard to make like such a dramatic transition like that. Like maybe back then when things are like way more simple, people are living more of a simple life, it's easier to kind of go into that space. But yeah, that's why this whole approach is to try to make the transformation of quieting the mind more applicable and easy for people with craziness and chaos going on.
Yes, and it was applicable from day one. His words resonated. I could hear him speaking long after we left. It was like it got in there. So effective. And he did give some affirmation statements that, we could practice each day, to start to shift the mind and perceptions. But that was simple. You can practice affirmations as you're doing anything. You can be cooking, you can be working, you can be bicycle riding and practicing affirmations. And that was really, really helpful. And I used to write affirmations in the past, but this was just a different time, a different space, a different energy, a different human being supporting my process.
That's great. So what kind of advice would you give to someone who's basically struggling with things that are out of their control? Because I think a lot of people that, might come to Sanal, they might have struggles that are completely out of their control, like health issues, relationship issues, job issues that they can't exactly just change. So how could they adapt to these things that are always going to be existing in their life in a peaceful way, in a harmonious way in their minds?
Listen to change. And that's one of Sanal's statements. We can go to talks and everything, but if we're listening to have opinions, if we're listening to compare, to judge, we will not absorb the information to enrich our own lives. And that was one of the things Sanal really taught me to do, was to listen to change, not to rebut or to argue, but to change. Very key to the process. He will teach about that. If you feel like you are looking for a teacher, if you're looking for some wisdom, Sanal is the person that can help you.
Yeah, so taking in all of this wisdom and knowledge is part of the process of transformation. It's not just kind of learning some things for fun or to debate about. It's just part of the transformational process.
It really isn't that much about learning anything. It's being open and receptive to growth and to your own expansion. Everything that Sanal will say is going to foster that growth if you are open and if you just sit to absorb what he has to say. I used to feel like, okay, just come in, like that kind of thing, where you're not analyzing what he's telling you. You just take it in. I think, I've never really had a guru, but I think that must be what the guru-disciple relationship is, where you just trust this person. It's like, that they know. And so you just allow yourself to be like an open vessel and receive whatever it is they give you. We never set out a topic. Sanal just seemed to know what was needed, and I reaped all the benefits of it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because I think sometimes people try to like plan too much of like, okay, you need to learn this, then you need to learn that, then you need to learn that. But a lot of it is very different depending on the person and where they're at and what is already incorporated and what still needs to be a little bit more strongly held in order to experience this sort of transformation.
Yes.
That's so cool. So what would you say to someone who's thinking about working with Sanal, but they're not really sure?
I say dive in. You are only going to gain from this relationship. He's probably one of the most giving individuals I've ever met. He is extremely selfless in terms of how he approaches helping people. When you meet him, you can see clearly his heart is all about that. He wants to help people live their happiest lives. And you can just see it in his face. And as you get to know him, you hear it in his words, like, I just can't even believe that I had this blessing bestowed upon me. I feel like the universe just said, this is your time, you poor thing, here. I was ready. I didn't even know how ready I was. I called my friend after meeting him. She wasn't in the area. And I said, you need to get here fast. I have met the most amazing person.
I know. And it was like after COVID, when everyone was just staying home for so long. Sanal wasn't even really going out and teaching and meeting people. And then the time came when everyone's just coming back to life, and you guys just happened to randomly meet, and it was like really profound connection and change is happening through that relationship, and being able to teach you every single day.
Every single day for weeks and weeks and weeks, and sometimes for hours and hours and hours. And I would never grow tired of it. I would not grow tired of it. It was profound. That's really the main word for me. It was profound. Changes were profound. Everything about him and that time period is probably the most profound period of my life so far. It felt random and unexpected, but yet at the same time, it was like, oh, of course. And it was so sad when it ended. I remember just feeling a little like sad, heartbroken, but the connection still there. I mean, I think about Sanal all the time. His teachings, what he was able to impart upon me has not left. And this is many months later, and I feel a sense of ease in my life that I've never had. And it's not that I have an easy life. It's just I still have the same things going on as before, and as all of us do. But I no longer have this vice grip on the events of my life. I've just come to realize that so much is going on behind the scenes that we don't know about or understand. And so that allows me to just feel a lot more ease with everything. Like, so much of what we think matters so much has no relevance unless we start giving it. So I've gotten better about choosing what really needs attention and what doesn't. Oh, thank you, Sanal.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this information about your experience.
You're welcome.
How I
Thank you for
you.
sharing your partner. Thank you for sharing your partner so graciously. He is a very special human being. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he is here in this lifetime to help others, to help us out. He's got a lot of wisdom. I remember at one point I thought, oh, he's so young. But then I was like, no, he's not. What am I even thinking? He's got just such a way of communicating.
Yeah, communication was always so important for him to learn and develop. He didn't want anything else in life. He never wanted to do like a boring, typical job. He's like, all I want to do is just learn about spirituality, philosophy, make sense of it. Like he would even just be pondering over so many different topics. Like most people, they just kind of breeze through a book, just reading through it. He like really intentionally thinks of everything to like make sense of it and learn how to explain it and communicate it. And yeah, he's just really passionate to share these things now because so many people can really have crazy shifts and transformations from it.
Yes. We all need a session with Sanal.
Yeah, you don't even know.
Because you don't know. I didn't really know how locked up my head was until I met him. I mean, I kind of knew, but speaking with him, it became very obvious to me that I had some serious traps.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have no idea we even have, problems or getting stuck in ways that just becomes like a part of this sort of like unawareness. And then once you become aware of it, then you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much I can actually experience and enjoy life so much more. I can just change and get out of these old patterns.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm happier than I've ever been. I still have all the same scenarios and same issues or problems or dynamics as before, but none of it carries a heavy relevance to me anymore because I've got a different lens on. My perceptions of things have changed. I no longer hold them so tight with definite truths about what's happening. So once again, I say thank you, Sanal. And my family thanks you too. And my friends, everyone's like, you're just so much happier now. And I really am. I really, really am. Yeah.
So the impact is so much more on just you. It's like your whole family, friends, community, people you run into at the supermarket.
Absolutely. I'm able to just spread more joy because I'm less bogged down in my mind. My mind is so much freer so I can have happier experiences. There's more space for joy. Sanal would say, I am that I that creates with grace and ease. And that's how I want to live out the rest of my life, with ease and with grace. And the joy will just keep flowing in. So anyone that is thinking about whether or not, to engage with Sanal, I can only say, oh, absolutely, don't even hesitate. It will change your life.